It's an absolutely wild day in the world of Magic the Gathering. We've just gotten a leak for the upcoming Fallout set. On top of that, there's some really crazy stuff going on with the Karlov pre-release kits and some variant action. And if that wasn't enough, we also have a lot of secret layer stuff to discuss.
Magic. I am a wizard! History. I'm an old wizard! The magic historian. My bones hurt.
Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles, my friends. I hope the day finds you well because we have gathered for a jam-packed installment of Mega Magic news. A lot has been going on. First of all, we're going to talk about the crazy Fallout leak because somebody has been a naughty boy. Actually, I guess multiple people because this is a multi-staged leak, right? So the first thing we're going to look at is War Room. Now, off the top, just so you know, this is a reprint. This is not a functionally unique card that was created specifically for the Fallout set. You take a look at it, it's a land that taps for a colorless, or you can pay 3, tap it, pay life equal to the number of colors in your commander's color identity to draw a card. So you can end up, especially if you play like single colored commander, this can be a really potent card draw for you, right? And ultimately it's been layered over with the Fallout flavor. You can see the art done in that style. Actually, the flavor text is kind of a sticking point for some people who are fans of Fallout because it references the Brotherhood of Steel. But when you read the flavor text, it says, a speech to stir the Brothers of Steel, a speech to bring the Enclave to heal, a speech to make a robotic ideal. So obviously they wanted to make it all rhyme and fit the meter, but it does kind of change the name of the organization from the game into something they've never really been called. So that is a little nitpick that people have. In terms of the actual flavor overall, perfectly fits as far as I'm concerned for Fallout. And when I said somebody's been naughty, take a look down at the bottom. This is a release promo, right? So this is something you're going to be able to get if you go and play in an event, which means somebody got sent these and has been a naughty boy and showed them to us before we were supposed to see them. Now, I said this was a multi-staged leak, so there's a few other Fallout things to look at, but these are specifically going to be on Arena. And it's interesting to note that not all Universe Beyond properties actually make it onto Arena, right? So we didn't get the Doctor Who stuff coming to Arena, but we will be getting Dogmeat stickers, which I assume are going to go over very well, as Dogmeat is a beloved and ridiculous character that has a hard time keeping himself alive, right? So that's a fan favorite. And they also, on top of that, have a bunch of Fallout basic lands that they're bringing over to Arena. Now, I don't know if there's going to be more things going on. Somebody dug into the files and figured out this stuff was coming. It's crazy how obsessed people are with Magic. I guess it's kind of weird for me to say that considering what I do with my time. But still, people digging down into the files to get every little scrap, and then I get them all together and bring them all together for you. So we've got the next thing on the list I want to talk about is the pre-release kit situation. Now, luckily, I actually have the packaging for a pre-release kit here to discuss what I want to talk about here, because they have done something that is actually really, really cool here and shows that they're actually putting some effort into different aspects of their product. And it is heartening because I did genuinely feel like they were only going in a downwards direction. So this is based on the insert that comes in the pre-release kit, and it has a bunch of different variants. And I didn't realize at first that all of the different pre-release kits, they will have different artwork on them. So you'll have Proft on every single one, but he will actually have a different object in his hand for each single one. So there'll be, every box will have different colors, like this is the yellow box. There'll be 2 different variations of Proft. And then you also have the insert here, right? See how the insert is red? See how the box is yellow? There'll be all these different variants. So it actually has a little puzzle and you follow the instructions. So I'm not going to read it all off for you, but to give you an example, let's say you have the yellow deck box like I do. It says, if Alquist Proft is holding a notebook, then you do this. I'm not going to spoil the actual fun part of it, right? And then it says, if he's holding a magnifying glass, do this instead. So you do it with the deck box. You do it with the insert. But the actual coolest part is, remember how we talked about they're going to be including 3 alternate promos for these kits, where we talked about it before in the realm of confusion. And actually, I will say they did put a bright orange line specifically stating that, stop, your pre-release pack contains a special mythic you can only find here. It's so special, in fact, you can't use it in your pre-release deck. Save your Voja Jaws of the Conclave, Tomic Wielder of Law, or Melik Reforged's Researcher for the next case. So when I talked about this being a problem in the previous video, this is not the absolute best way to handle it. The absolute best way to handle it is to wrap the promo in separate packaging that indicates it can't be used. That's the ideal way, but they did do something here. Now, what they've actually done with these promo cards is they printed them with variant artwork, right? So for example, with Voja Claws of the Conclave, you can get one that either has a saddle or is muzzled. When it comes to Melik, he can either be examining a scrap of paper or examining a flower. And when it comes to Tomic, you can end up with him riding a griffin or riding a gargoyle. Now, this is a fun little include. I really appreciate the fact that they went to the extra effort to jazz up the pre-release kits, because back in the day, they used to do mega epic pre-release events. Anybody who's been around long enough will remember the Dragon's Maze, where they literally set up this little board game where you use your 20-sided die to score points knocking down soldiers and stuff, and you get cool promos depending on how well you've done. Or the Hell Vault, which was just incredible. That, I think, was the most electric pre-release I've ever been to in terms of people just being super hyped. And Wizards managed to keep the Hell Vault aspects a secret, so there were extra layers to it that we had no idea about. And I felt like as we progressed, we got further and further away from that. So this is actually really good news in terms of it's not everything where they're just going, how can we not put any money into this? So I'm happy to see that. Now, the situation that's going on with this set is one where Wizards of the Coast has created people call it an ARG or whatever. It's supposed to be like an augmented reality puzzle, but I don't really feel like this falls into that. It is a puzzle, and they have done a whole bunch of different clues. Actually, if you take a look at the, I believe it's the extended version of all the lands, there's actually a cipher that's written through them. If you take a look at the art cards, the art cards that come in the boosters that just have the picture on the front, well, if you look on the back, you'll actually notice there are different jagged edges around the outside that are puzzle pieces, so you can kind of connect them together. So Wizards has done a bunch of different puzzle pieces, and it's led to some confusion specifically regarding the store release poster, okay? So the release poster for Karlov Manor has all of these different characters down along the left-hand side, but down at the bottom, you've got a character who in the story, we're told is called Kylox, but on the poster, it's called Usith. Okay? And the thing is, people don't know, wait, is this a clue? Or has Wizards of the Coast just been sloppy with this? Because when it comes to Kylox in the story, he exists for a brief moment, has no impact on the story, and is just ended. It really did feel like they shoved him into the written story because he's just like on the cover of the box. You can see him. He's the lizard man, the Viashino, right? On the box. So you just go, wait, where does this guy fit in? So it's entirely possible that it's either a puzzle piece or Wizards originally named him this and didn't actually go back and change the posters. It's impossible to know now with the things that Wizards have done, whether it's an intentional puzzle or a screw up. And the number of people who are pointing that out is hilarious, where they're like, wait, did Wizards of the Coast just figure out the perfect way to hide every flaw in a set where they can just go, oh, it's just clues for a puzzle? So that's funny, where Wizards has made so many mistakes that people can't be sure if the mistakes are intentional or not. And speaking of which, take a look at this image here. You see how there are 2 vampires, but they have like the different color just in one aspect of the artwork? Notice the red is in one and red is missing in the other. Well, this led a bunch of people to go, wait. Is this a clue? Is this a card quality issue? What are we looking at here? And it has been confirmed by Wizards of the Coast that there are 3 different cards in the set that do have these variations in the artwork. So it is intended to be some kind of overall clue. The problem is that Magic card quality is so low that nobody knows this. And Wizards didn't go out of their way to put different collector numbers on the cards. Normally when they make variants, they'll give them like A class, B class, C class, right? But in this case, they have the exact same collector's number. So there's nothing to differentiate the card aside from the fact that the artwork looks wrong. And this is actually causing issues for game stores as well, where they're trying to figure out how to list this stuff. And apparently the running theory now is if these variants show up with like a 50-50, maybe 50 to 60% kind of balance, then they're all just going to be tossed under the same listing when you order one, just get sent out, whatever, right? But if there's one that's like ultra rare or there's a huge difference, like this one shows up 80% of the time, these other two only show up 10% of the time, it's not clear whether there are more than two variants. We haven't really had all that out because Wizards has been keeping their lips shut when it comes to a bunch of the puzzle pieces. So this is an interesting thing to see happen where people are going, so is this because Wizards screwed up? So leaving the collector number the same is the biggest mistake. What they should have done totally was given subcategories to it, right? If you want to make something special and different, you should actually take the extra step to make it fully noticeable to anybody who's going to be confused by your card quality. All right. So next up, what do we have on the list? We have invisible ink confusion. So people are confused when they're getting their showcase cards. Do I have the invisible ink version or not? And they're wondering, do I have to literally go out and get a black light to figure out if I have the invisible ink version? I can't even tell. It's causing confusion, but there's an easy way to tell. These cards are kind of glossy, and if you just tilt it, you can actually see the invisible ink. And they're just like detective notes from Proft writing about cases and stuff. So ultimately, it's a fun little thing. And actually, now that I think about it, remember when we talked a while ago about how Jurassic Park was going to have glow-in-the-dark cards for the whole like Return to Ixalan, all that kind of stuff? Well, we never got that. That's probably what this turned out to be. The invisible ink is probably that whole glow-in-the-dark thing that we heard about before. Now, let's move on to the secret layers, because there's a bunch of stuff going on with secret layers. First thing I want to do is take a look at some beautiful new cards. So we're going to take a look first at Peregrine Drake, I should say. I messed up its name. 1 blue and 4 for this busted 2/3 flyer. When it enters the battlefield, untap up to 5 lands. You know, when these cards originally came out, they did a whole cycle of these where you get to untap the lands used to cast the spells, because they thought, hey, what's the big deal? Like, if you pay 5 mana, you get to untap 5 lands, it just makes the spell free, but you can only do it when you get up to 5 lands. Problem with these cards is they're bonkers broken. We all know it, right? You can untap lands that produce multiple mana, and also on top of that, free spells are always a problem. When you're getting stuff for free in Magic, it leads to huge issues. So Peregrine Drake, while it wasn't immediately something that people adopted when it came out all the way back in the Urza's day, it didn't take too long for people to realize, yo, all of this is busted. All of these untap your land cards are broken, and yeah. So Peregrine Drake went from being like a whatever uncommon into the equivalent of a desirable rare. And we see this one in this epic peacock style, right? This secret layer that it's from is called Beauty of the Beasts. And I love this concept. It's a great card with visually striking artwork that genuinely feels like full-on Magic the Gathering artwork. Let's take a look at another awesome one in the form of Felidar Guardian. This is another powerhouse uncommon, and it's actually funny. When this card originally came out, it was part of a 2-card combo in like the same set that it was in, or maybe not the same set it was in, but either way, it was a 2-card standard combo that was so broken, Saheeli and Felidar Guardian equals you win. Wizards had to do an emergency banning over the weekend, and it was frankly astounding that they didn't realize how busted this card is, right? So 1 white and 3 gets you a 1/4 cat beast. When it enters the battlefield, you can exile another target permanent you control and then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. So basically you can just blink planeswalkers out and then get them back. Oh, look what I can do. You can do all kinds of silly shenanigans, right? But that's one of the things this was used for. And it has the distinction of, I think it's the fastest banned uncommon in Magic's history. It got to be in standard for like 2 days, and honestly never even should have. I think how it went was Wizards looked at like some online data like a day after it came out and went, whoa, way more people are playing this than we thought they would. So yeah, we're gonna have to ban it, right? I don't know if Arena actually helps them be a little more in tune with that kind of stuff too, in terms of figuring out how quickly they have to ban stuff. But it is an interesting historical item. Now, as far as the Beauty of the Beast secret lair goes, those are the only two cards that we have from them so far. So take a look at this weird Renin 6 promo. This is also a secret lair card. Now, this one is being used for the Pro Tour. So if you are in the top 32 in a Pro Tour like qualifying style event deal, and also I believe it's like Pro Tour Championships, and also the World Championships also are awarded with these. I gotta say, there's a lot of eyes on this card, man. This is some really funky artwork. Overall, I think it's cool, but it's really weird. I don't know if it's just the picture, but the border itself feels red. And I don't like this trend of Magic cards becoming less and less easy to parse out from across the table. I like when I can see the color of my opponent's cards from across the table and know what it is. And yes, this Renin 6 is both green and red in the art, which is great. Like, you've got some of that color, but the red border leans it heavily in the color of red, which makes it a little, I just don't like things like that. The same way that I don't like the showcase style for this Karlov Manor set, making every card look like it's a white card. Magic the Gathering gets more complex every single month as they add new mechanics, more cards, and just cram more and more words onto cards without making sure the mechanics even flow properly. Like, the cases are a great example of that. So being able to understand the board state without having to pick up each of your opponent's cards, for me, is something I really value in Magic, and I don't appreciate this sort of forget the borders. The borders, they give you actual, like, useful information, the borders of cards that will tell you whatever. So adding a red border around it just adds extra confusion as far as I'm concerned. But Renin 6 is a powerhouse, insane card. It's a sweet prize to be getting, and this artwork is super, super funky. It's obviously going to be hit or miss depending on like your style, but for me, I really dig it. Now, speaking of styles I don't like, take a look at Showcase Karlov Manor. So if you don't know what this is, basically what Wizards does is they do these showcase secret lairs where they take the showcase style from the current set and they apply it to creatures that aren't actually in the current set. So they can go, well, here's people in that style. So with this particular secret lair, you're getting Grenzo, Anawan, Gonti, and Vilis. It does feel like a random mishmash of cards, but I'm guessing with the ones that are tucked in there, I mean, people really do like Vilis and Gonti. I have no idea how much Anawan or Grenzo get used, but Gonti and Vilis are up there. So there are going to be people who are interested in them. And the artwork on the cards is totally fine, right? Like, there's nothing wrong with the artwork itself, but it does have that dreadful, dreadful dossier style, which, like I said, it just makes them genuinely look like white cards, doesn't it? Like, you have to look up at the actual mana symbols to figure out what color it is. So again, this falls into the category of make it easier to sit down and play a game of Magic. I've seen people say they literally quit playing Magic because of the amount of time it takes to just sit and read all of the different cards and this increasing complexity. So Wizards really does need to get a handle on this, because be real with yourself. When you look at this secret lair, does it look exciting? Does it really get you vibed up? Or are you possibly just considering maybe getting some singles you want at a discounted price compared to the secondary market price of them? Now, I don't know the secondary market price of these cards off the top of my head, so I'm not stating that the value of the cards in the secret lair is worth more. I'm just saying it's a mental exercise to determine how you actually feel about the cards, right? Now, I want to end off by talking about a game completely separate than Magic. MetaZoo. A bunch of you probably don't know about it. It's a 4-year-old card game that just called it quits yesterday. They went completely out of business. And it's fascinating to watch a TCG pop into existence, actually succeed enough to go 4 years. Because understand, most of them crumble immediately. So go 4 years and then shutter the doors. And all of the stuff that happened underneath with the company is absolutely wild. Just one of the things they did. Apparently they hired the people who counterfeited Magic cards over in China and asked them to make the official MetaZoo cards. After which those counterfeiters said, sure, and they made the official MetaZoo cards, and then they set up shop down the road making counterfeits of the originals. And it just gets crazier from there. So I actually covered all of that in a live stream that I did last night. It's up on the live stream archive now. So if you want to hear all about the end of a TCG and all the insanity that happened, head over and watch that. Now, we're done here. So big shout out to all my patrons. Thank you very much for supporting my channel. And I will see you all in the next video.